Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. This week I'm going to be talking about the Redbreast 15. Now there's a couple of reasons I chose this one for this episode. About a week and a half ago, some of you might know, I turned 40, which I see the comments that you guys leave. Some of you think I'm like way older than 40, some of you think I'm way younger than 40, but I think it's just the bald head. Either way, I'm 40. So I've wanted this bottle for a while. Might not be the most exciting thing to buy when you turn 40, but 40-year-old whiskeys are kind of pricey, as you would expect. This one, even at 130, was a little bit of a splurge, but I'm happy I did. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But there also might be a secondary reason that I purchased this one, and it might have to do with a Redbreast vertical that I am planning, because a lot of you that watched the Ardbeg vertical really liked the idea and wanted me to do Redbreast. There are a couple of other suggestions in there as well, which I'll definitely get to, but Redbreast is going to be the next one. You'll see that in a couple of weeks. But I have a question for you guys, and it's very important, so help me out. And I'm not just joking, like this actually matters. Redbreast 21. Do you feel like it belongs in a vertical of Redbreasts or not? Like as far as should I purchase it to add to the which one's the best, right? That's the idea. So let me know in the comments whether you think 21 belongs in this vertical or not. But as a quick reminder for what Redbreast even is. Now, obviously it's an Irish whiskey. I shouldn't say obviously because some of you might not know that, but it is an Irish whiskey. It's made in copper pot stills. And more importantly, it's been around for a very long time. As a reminder, Redbreast actually started as wine importers back in 1857, but sometime between 1857 and 1912, they started making whiskey. And specifically this one called JJ Liqueur Whiskey 12-Year-Old. That whole thing is its name. And then they rebranded it in 1912 to Redbreast 12, which very, very good idea. Much, much better. But Redbreast and all of the Redbreasts are made of both malted and unmalted barley. And for those of you that don't know, malted barley just means taking a barley grain, allowing it to germinate, which converts the carbohydrates over to sugar and changes the taste of the grain. But they use both malted and malted barley, and there's a reason for this. There was a tax passed in 1784 called the malt tax, which is of course the most creative name that they could do. But what this meant is that you had to pay taxes not only on the whiskey that you produced, but on any barley that you allowed to be malted barley. And so of course things changed. People had to reevaluate what they were putting into their whiskeys to make sure that it made sense for the end consumer and for what they were trying to make. But regardless, they use malted and unmalted barley. Redbreast 15 was first released in 2005, which is surprising because aged whiskeys is not a new concept, far from it. But more so, they had been making the 12 for so long, I'm surprised it took this long for them to put out the 15. But either way, it's all malted and unmalted barley, like I mentioned. It's also aged exclusively in ex-bourbon barrels. Now, these bourbon barrels held bourbon that was specifically for 3 to 4 years in those barrels. It's nothing super old. So they still have a lot of character to those barrels, which will make a lot of sense when we go into the nosing and tasting. It's 46.8% ABV, and it sells for about $130. Now for the nose. Red apples, very sweet. A little bit of a nutty flavor there too, like a hazelnut. Maybe a little dark chocolate. Toffee, caramel. Some of the bourbon notes are coming out after a second here. For me, there's almost no alcohol on the nose here. If you pour it immediately, you'll get it, of course. I let this sit out during the reviews, especially while I'm filming and stuff, but just it has time to breathe, so keep that in mind. Maybe a little grassy, actually, like not earthy so much, but almost like fresh. I think that's probably a better way to put it, like fresh cut grass. Yeah, I think that's most of it. Some bourbon, mostly apples, and sweetness. All right, cool. Let's have a taste. Cheers. Ooh, yeah. Oh, that finish is awesome. Oh man, that's so good. That finish is really, really good. Wow. Sorry, I don't have words yet. I will get there. I'm just enjoying this. This is, all right, so let me tell you, I guess, instead of just making noises. So when you sip this, first thing that you're getting is apples, but it's like apple juice because it's just so sweet. We're talking like bad apple juice, like not fresh squeeze. We're talking like bad for you apple juice. It's super good. And then there's oak for sure on the finish, mostly like the way it's drying on your tongue. There's a tannic bit that's coming from the oak. So it's good to know that those barrels are not overused at this point. And I forgot to say this, they do use both first fill and kind of like additional use. They didn't say how many, but you know, second, third fill bourbon barrels. The idea is that at the end they'll blend it all together and kind of get a specific flavor. In this case, that flavor is fantastic. Wow. As far as berries here go, think more red berries, something similar to strawberry, but not quite. I'm not sold on strawberry. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna change that a little bit. I'm gonna get back to the berries, but there's another flavor I'm tasting here, and it's more like a grapefruit. And I think it's like a bit of a punch from, almost like a citric punch. The word punch is misleading here. Like a punch. It's apples, and then it's grapefruit with a sharp flavor. Then it's oak and maybe a little bit of like a peach flavor. Very heavy on fruit with this whiskey. Some of the other flavors I'm getting, very, very mild, are almost like a cocoa powder, not like a dark chocolate. I get that sometimes. This has an almost drying sensation along with the chocolate that is making me think of like powdered chocolate that you put into like the smell that you get when you pour powdered chocolate, where it's like a vapor almost, or particulate in the air. I'm like way over the top with this. This is super good. All right. This one's, I'm sorry, apparently I just get dumb when stuff is really good. This is good. It's good, and it's good as well. Anyway, so some of the other things that you're getting here are, towards the finish, you are getting some more of those bourbon flavors. A little bit of toffee, a little bit of caramel, a little cinnamon as well. The oak barrel is giving a lot of bourbon-y style tasting to this whiskey, but the fruits are hard to get past. That's mostly what you're tasting here. I'm having to dig for those bourbon flavors, but they're there. They're definitely there, mostly on the finish. I'm looking at my notes to make sure there's nothing I missed here that I cared to talk about, and no, I nailed it all, which is great because that means the flavors are consistent here. All right, so let's talk about the final verdict here. Now, even though I'm loving this, you do still have to consider the fact that, believe it or not, at one point, this was a $65 bottle, which is kind of crazy. And I do think was far underpriced for that price. We're talking back, 2015 timeframe, it was about that. So, 8 years ago. Things are different now. And I'm not judging it against $65. That would be silly. This is $130 though. And when you compare this to the Redbreast 12 that you can get for about $60, $65, is it worth twice the price? Yes. Yes, very much so. In my mind, 12 is, you'd be surprised when you drink some of its other, the other expressions in the core lineup, 12 actually can taste a little bit thin, which is very surprising because when you first try 12, it is such a full flavor. But when you have the 15 or, the cask strength, which is a little cheating, or some of the other higher end stuff, even the Lestau, like you realize that all of the other Redbreasts have a way better flavor than the 12, but the 12 is still fantastic. So going back to the 15, since that's what we're talking about, is this worth $130 of your money? I absolutely think so. And I don't say that very often. I hesitate ever to recommend anything over $100. But this one, I am not at all sad that I paid any dollar amount for this. I think this is a fantastic bottle. I think you should absolutely find this into your bar. And I think you'll love it if you get it. So, speaking of finding some bottles into your bar, I have a number of single barrel picks that you should check out. They're at whiskeydickpicks.com, and if nothing else, visit it for the name. So, check that out. But other than that, I'll see you guys next week here on the Whiskey Dictionary. I hope you enjoyed the review. Cheers.